justice for all.
And I believe that we have a quorum. Madam Clerk, can you confirm the quorum?
I confirm the presence of a quorum.
Thank you. And we turn to the minutes of the August 30th, 2021 regular council meeting, which have been distributed. And I would ask, is there a motion to accept these minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're going to start with public comment. Is there anybody who wishes to address council?
Actually, in me putting in my request, it should not be under public comment, but a presentation. But you guys keep putting me in that same format. But just to start this off,
Would
I'd
you
like
state your name for the record, please?
Kevin Parrish, village resident, 176 Washington. I'd like to give a shout out to all the village residents that finally came out to show and voice their opinion and disapproval of council's actions. For years, I've been a representative for those muted voices. Now that they've been released, they show the effectiveness of that. But for more important things, we have a big water issue that the village is showing an embarrassing lack of transparency. The Morse incident, where we have people in hazmat suits, and yet you give no public health announcement about it. We're concerned about the administration and their responsibilities to this community when we have safety issues that don't seem to be worth announcing. Also, we have issues with public records. This is the 13th month that I've requested public records concerning the Phase 1 sanitary sewer project, which was the first phase of this sanitary sewer reduction issue that we have here in the village of Glendale. Though they didn't use the usual lawyers, Glendale hired two high-powered lawyers, but I don't understand how do you defend against public records. They're public. But you're doing it. Anyway, we're waiting on an answer for the court to give that decision, which should be soon, hopefully. We're in the 13th month. In regards to that, in the 2020, with the bridge incident, you guys put in a CMOM along with the notice of violation that came with that spiel. Then that was in August, but in December you put in another one. You were awarded grants in February, and yet since then you have not come up with a CMOM. It always says you're working on it. 10 months, but you were awarded the money. So I'm asking you, where are we at on this? Also, we have technical difficulties with in-person meetings. No PowerPoint presentations can be done. The explanation I got when we were doing Zoom meetings is because we were not in person, they couldn't be done. So are we regressing in our technology that we cannot have PowerPoint presentations so that the people who are viewing us on Zoom or YouTube cannot see what is being presented? Because with our public records and retention system we have here, the editing has just become pitiful. It doesn't completely show what is going on here. For example, are the minutes for the last two meetings. Are they finished and can be viewed by residents? Because I'm having a hard time pulling them up. The editing of July, when we were on the East Willow project, those minutes still haven't been put into the record. So what are we doing here? I mean,
You have about a minute.
we know this is election year, but people should not fall asleep on who they're electing. We have people in office that have been there and did nothing but destructive measures. We have a Glendale Planning and Historic Preservation Committee that all need to go to the eye doctor because they seem to be interested in interior and exterior decoration than historic preservation. And that's concerning. Tonight, you guys would have been deciding on the conditional use. I have no doubt that if it had not come up under the hands of someone else, what your vote would have been. You have showed your shameless and selfish, unapologetic ways here in the village of Glendale, and I think that a lot of other people are waking up to seeing that. Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to address council?
Thank you, Mayor Lofty, members of council. I'm Paul Muller, the Executive Director of the Cincinnati Preservation Association. Our offices are at 430 Reading Road in Cincinnati. I just thought I'd come back and give you an update on what happened. We had said at the last meeting that we were hoping to purchase the Eckstein School, and we were able to do that. We have a purchase contract. It has 60-day due diligence period. We're in that right now. We see no reason whatsoever that we won't close on it. We have the funds. It's not a problem at all. And I believe Denny Dillinger officially rescinded his conditional use application. So, okay. I just wanted to tell you that because I was here before and said we were going to try and do it, and you probably heard that we'd done it, and also in case there were any questions. But anyway, thank you very much. We'll be working with the Eckstein Cultural Arts Center and the Land Bank. And Cincinnati Preservation will be there all the way through. We're going to help raise the funds for this and have a really exceptional facility here in Glendale.
Thank you, Mr. Muller.
That's all I had to say. But thank you very much. We look for a long-term relationship here.
Does anybody else wish to address the council?
Mr. Mayor, may I
Yes.
have a moment of privilege, please? I'd like to thank the Cincinnati Preservation Association, the Land Bank, the Eckstein Cultural Arts Center expressly, Bill Parrish, Kevin Parrish, and others who have kept the Eckstein School building before this council and before the village of Glendale. I'd also like to thank Denny Dillinger for his cooperation. And there are many, many, many residents in the village of Glendale who have been actively involved in trying to better that building, to preserve its cultural heritage, to thank, and they are too numerous to mention. I do want to recognize this is an historic moment for the village of Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to proceed to old business. We have one that was a bit unplanned, but as a verbal, we can take care of by verbal resolutions. Resolution 2021-18 was the resolution that concerned the Eckstein School, a application for a conditional use regarding the Eckstein School building to convert it to a convalescent center. And as you have heard today, that application has been withdrawn. and we have received that notification from the applicant. So we right now have we still have the motion for the resolution on the table. And what I would propose to do, just in the interest of good legislative housekeeping, is to take that resolution off the table by one vote, and then by another vote acknowledge that the application has been withdrawn and that the matter is now moot. So first action is to remove resolution 2021 from the table. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Is there any discussion? Okay. This is a voice vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. Now there's a motion, I propose a motion to vote to acknowledge that we have received the withdrawal of the application from the applicant and that the matter of Resolution 2021-18 is now moot. Do I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Yes.
So acting, is council saying there is no longer a resolution 2021-18, which we are looking at tonight on this agenda?
No, we're going to have to renumber those resolutions, and I'm going to get to that. We're going to start, though, with ordinance number 2021-35, an ordinance appointing Glendale volunteer firefighters, establishing a one-year probationary period, and declaring an emergency. I'm going to ask the chief to introduce us to these people.
Okay. First one is Victor Jones. Victor comes out of the U.S. Navy. In the Navy, he was a Navy fire team leader. He does not have current fire certification in Ohio, so we'll be working on that. Our second candidate is Deja Steele. Deja was a part of the Cincinnati Fire Cadet Program and also the Cincinnati Police Cadet Program. So glad to get Deja on board as well.
Very good. Do I have a motion for this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
And do I have a motion to dispense with three reads?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Ordinance 2021-35, to dispense with the three reads. Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Mr. Howeller.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemith.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Mr. Howeller.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemith.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, are these, are the two new firefighters here?
There's a scheduling conflict, so we missed that with them, and we'll get with the office to get you scheduled to do that.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. We turn to ordinance 2021-36, an ordinance authorizing amendment of 2021 estimated revenue and appropriations of the Sanitary Sewer and Disposal Fund and declaring an emergency. I'm going to let Mr. Lumsden introduce this ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor. This ordinance is a pretty run-of-the-mill update to our estimated revenues.
Mr. Lumsden, do you have two masks on by chance?
I do not.
Okay.
This is an update to the estimated revenue and appropriation for the Sanitary Sewer and Disposal Fund. The funds listed here are loan proceeds that the village has received for the execution of the planning stage of the CMOM project. So the passage of this ordinance will facilitate us to be able to complete that first stage of the CMOM project.
Okay. So, for the record, this is to fund the CMOM project, the planning stage of it. And do I have a motion for this ordinance?
Moved.
And a motion to dispense with three reads?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
For ordinance 2021-36, to dispense with the three reads. Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Mr. Howeller.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemith.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
For the ordinance, Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Mr. Howeller. Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemith.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Continuing, we come to Resolution 2021-18, which I will ask for a friendly amendment be renumbered 2021-19. Let me finish reading the title first. A resolution authorizing the village administrator to prepare and submit an application to participate in the urban canopy restoration grant program and to execute contracts as required. Do I have a motion for this or a resolution?
So moved.
And there is no dispensing with three reads here. Mr. Lumsden, can you just give us some brief background here?
Surely. The Ohio Department of Natural Resources is making available 50/50 matching reimbursable grant funds for urban canopy restoration through this grant program. The Urban Forestry Board of the village has committed $3,000 of its own funds towards the carrying out of this grant application program. So this resolution would authorize me to apply for those grant funds. An additional matching $3,000 of funds would come from the general fund or wherever council may appropriate it to be reimbursed if the grant is awarded. So this project would only go forward in the event that the grant is awarded. But those funds would be reimbursed to the village through the award of this grant.
Okay. And it's a 50/50 matching grant, did I hear that right?
Correct. So the total project cost would be $6,000.
So by spending $3,000, we get $6,000 worth of benefits. Do I have a friendly amendment motion here to renumber this resolution 2021-19?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there any discussion of this resolution?
Yeah, we do have a 2020, oh, okay, that's, yeah, 2021-19 is the next.
Yes, we're going to have to renumber. And
that too?
as we go along, we'll have to renumber each of these resolutions. Sorry about that. But the one that's 18 is now 19. Is that what the one you wanted to talk about?
No, I'm good.
Yeah, all right. So we have a resolution newly numbered 2021-19. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
For Resolution 2021-19, Mr. Bessel.
Aye.
Mr. Howeller.
Aye.
Ms. Duke.
Aye.
Ms. Masenko.
Aye.
Mr. Basemith.
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Resolution 2021-19, and we're going to renumber it 20. It is a resolution accepting the amount and rates as determined by the Budget Commission of Hamilton County and authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor. Mr. Lumsden, I'm afraid you got to do this one.
This is a fairly standard practice. Every year, the council certifies the rates of our property tax levies, both in and outside millage. That's included in Schedule A, which is attached to this resolution. So this is a pretty boilerplate copy resolution that's received by the village from Hamilton County to achieve that end.
Thank you. Do I have a motion for a friendly amendment to amend this resolution to be 2021-20?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, point of clarification. Does passage of this resolution in any way place a tax levy, an additional tax levy, or any tax levy on the ballot either in November of this year or next year?
No.
Well, I thank you, David, but I was asking the mayor.
No.
Thank you. All right. I don't mean to be rude, but I do
Okay.
respect the presiding officer. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
For Resolution 2021-20, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Yes.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Basemith,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, if I may, the motion and second for that resolution were which members of council?
You know, as soon as I started calling roll, I'm not sure, because I have the motion and second for the friendly, but I don't have it written down for the actual resolution. So we should probably get a motion and a second for the resolution.
I'm sorry,
Just-
was there
just to
not a
clarify.
motion and second here?
I had it for the friendly amendment, for the, changing it to 2021-20, but I didn't have it for the actual resolution.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
second it.
Okay, let's do the vote again, just to be sure.
Okay, 2021-20, really for the record this time. Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Basemith. Mr. Kreidler.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. We turn to Resolution 2021-21, and we will renumber it in a minute, but this is a resolution authorizing the conditional use of land owned by Sue Anderson at 55 Coral Avenue for an above-ground swimming pool to be constructed pursuant to certain conditions. This application was approved by was recommended to us by council, by Planning Commission earlier today, and it is now before us. Do I have a motion for this resolution? Yeah, when we get a motion.
Second.
And do I have a motion for a friendly amendment to renumber it 2021-21?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Do we want to take a motion, a roll call on the friendly amendment, or do we just want to do a voice vote?
Oh, I thought we did it. I thought-
No.
Oh, okay. Is all those in favor of renumbering the resolution, say aye?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, we have a motion and a second for the resolution. So, is there any further discussion? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
For Resolution 2021-21, Mr. Bessel,
Aye.
Mr. Howeller,
Aye.
Ms. Duke,
Aye.
Ms. Masenko,
Aye.
Mr. Basemith,
Aye.
Mr. Kreidler. Thank you.
Thank you. We are about to turn to reports, and any member of council who feels that this meeting's gone on way too long is free to excuse himself. Go ahead. Carry on. Absolutely. So I will start with the mayor's report, and there were no births or deaths reported last month. I can report that at its meeting earlier today, the Glendale Planning and Historic Preservation Commission recommended changes in the zoning code for driveway setbacks. This was primarily to accommodate people with narrow driveways where they couldn't, where they would have difficulty meeting our 5-foot setback requirement. This will come to us in the form of a written resolution, which will be drafted and approved by the Planning Commission, and then we will schedule a hearing on it, just as we do with all zoning code changes. Looking ahead, the earliest that hearing could take place would be December 6th, so we'll see if that's the way it comes out. We also have a change in our zoning code approved by, recommended by Planning Commission for changes in our ordinance as they affect signage. And I have put out a notice of a public hearing on that change, on that ordinance for council meeting of November 1st. That notice has been sent to newspapers and is now posted on our village website. Just very briefly, so that people don't feel like this is hitting them cold. This came up because in 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court issued a decision in the case of Reed versus Town of Gilbert, in which it struck down a local ordinance because the court said that it was not content neutral. So, in other words, the regulation had some, the content of the message on the sign had some bearing on how the regulation would be reinforced, and the Supreme Court said that was impermissible in nearly all cases. There are some exceptions. So we as a village, along with many other municipalities and governmental entities, saw a need to review our ordinance on signage and ensure that compliance with our ordinance sign ordinance is not dependent upon the content or the message on the sign. And that is what the Planning Commission has done so far, and they have now sent it to us for approval. There is going to be a candidates forum held tomorrow, no, a week from tomorrow, on Tuesday, October 12th. It will be here in this room from 7 to 9 o'clock. However, only the candidates will be present due to COVID concerns and the fact that we are expecting a big crowd. So those wishing to view this will be able to do so virtually through the ICRC, and we have already sent out notices as to how that should be done. There will also be an opportunity to submit questions to the candidates, and those questions we also have instructions for how to send those questions to the village, and they will then it will be determined by the moderator, who is from the League of Women Voters, as to which questions will be asked. And that the deadline for submitting questions is going to be October 8th, Friday at noon. That will give us a few days to actually prepare. I have been asked about a particular home, property in the village that is at 65 Coral Avenue, which is in a state of disrepair. And I would ask our solicitor to give us an update on that.
Thank you, Mayor. If everyone recalls, what we initially started with the property was to obtain a search warrant a warrant to enter to inspect the interior of the property. Don Mercer was able to conclude, based on that inspection back in May, that the property needs to be condemned and is in fact a public nuisance. From that point on, we then notified all the interested parties of record, and because the decedent who owned the home had unresolved issues with the probate records, we also did a notice period advertisements as required for unspecified heirs. About the time that wrapped up, the mortgage holder, Loan Care, reached out to us and asked for time to decide whether they wanted to be able to come out and inspect it, decide whether it was able to be renovated or needs to be demolished. I spoke with the representative from Loan Care this morning. For whatever reason, they've made no determination on what they would want to do with the building. All they were able to tell me at the time was that they have it scheduled that all the brush and vegetation is supposed to be cleared by October 12th. So at this point, we're going to proceed tomorrow to send the 30-day order of demolition. And that will either compel them to move forward promptly with the demolition by their own accord, or they'll be aware that this will occur on part of the village scheduling it very quickly after that 30-day period, assuming there is no appeal or anything of that.
Thank you. Just final item, actually two items on the same day, September 25th, we had a yard sale sponsored on the grounds of the Harry Whiting Brown group, and I must say, I was there. The place was filled with vendors and customers coming together and buying and selling things, and also just having a good time. Later in the day, we had the street fair in the village square, and to me, it was just like the old days. It was just people from the village, residents and businesses getting together to eat and drink and shop and talk. And it was just a great day. So congratulations and thanks to the Glendale Chamber of Commerce and to Jenny Dennis of the Bluebird for putting it all together. Yes. You may be excused with our sincere thanks for getting here. Well, thank you. Okay, and I'll turn this over to our administrator for his report now.
Mr. Mayor, before doing so, may I ask a question about the candidates forum?
Yes.
Do you know, well, not do you know, will all of the candidates receive all of the questions to be asked? And will the public know the questions to be asked? This is a virtual event, and there's not that opportunity for give and take and exchange with the audience, so I'm just wondering about the process.
I don't believe that's the plan. I believe the questions will be submitted by residents or anybody who wants to submit them, and they will then, the moderator, what do we got here? Oh, okay. So the moderator will decide which questions will be asked, and they will ask the questions. And it'll be a level playing field because nobody's going to know what they are.
Okay, and the deadline is?
Friday, the 8th,
And the event is?
on Tuesday, the 12th.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, now I turn it over to our administrator for his report.
Thank you, Mayor. I will keep this evening's report relatively brief. There are three pieces of information I want to make sure get out to council. As everyone is aware, Sharon Avenue has been milled, so the road surface underneath the failing asphalt has been exposed. Some have said that it's actually a smoother ride than the original Sharon Avenue was, but the ride, I trust, will only be smoother once they finally get that course of asphalt down. With rain this week, we don't have a definitive timeline for that as of right now, but Jurgensen will be working quickly to make sure that that's remedied. In addition, and this was included in the newsletter on Friday, parking will be added across the street from Town Hall in front of the Veterans Memorial. That parking will be angled back in parking, so eastbound vehicles will back into spaces, making for a safer exit once they pull out into traffic rather than backing out into traffic on Sharon Avenue. We're looking forward to adding about 14 spaces as well as 2 dedicated handicap parking spaces in front of the building here. Next is the Grove Avenue water line. As I reported at a previous meeting, that was marked for replacement, and that replacement has been completed. And finally, residents probably notice blue paint, green paint on the streets around their homes. That is the underground utility marking that's going on right now as the first part of the CMOM project. Once that is complete, the village will have a digital map showing the location of our underground utilities. And then the next step will be televising the village's stormwater and sanitary sewer lines. So thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you call for the committee reports?
Finance Committee, please.
Finance Committee did not meet last month. We would typically meet at the end of a quarter, which would be mid to late October. I've sent out a notice to council that we'll just combine our review of third quarter results with the budget process in late October, early November, and everyone was relieved for fewer meetings. We don't have, according to our administrator, we have nothing on the financial horizon that looks like it will be a negative effect to our budget. So we feel good about allowing a couple of more weeks to pass before we do that review. And that's it for finance. We'll schedule meetings for budget and that review offline.
Thank you. Fire Committee, please.
The Fire Committee met, again, in company with the Buildings Committee. We met on September 28, and the minutes have been placed on the website. I turn it over to you, Chief.
Thank you. For September, we had 49 fire and EMS responses. Been working on our strategic planning process for the next, looking ahead down the future for the next few years. Also, shout out thanks to the Nestle company, donated some additional bottles of water for our department to have here to make sure that our people stay hydrated. We have about 500 cases of water now, so we should be well equipped. Chief Walsh and I attended the Hamilton County EMA Partners in Preparedness meeting last week, going over disaster preparedness countywide with all the different various departments, Public Works, Police, Fire, Admin. That's their annual meeting from EMA. This is today's the beginning of Fire Prevention Week. Again, it's check your smoke detectors, check your batteries, replace your smoke detectors after 10 years. And at the as culmination of this, on next Sunday from 10 to 2, we have our fire department open house. Fire station will be complete. I'll open it up to everybody to come in and visit your firehouse, see what the changes that have been made and the program of what we have. So we'll have chili cook-off. We have a chili cook-off contest. So if anybody's interested and you think you're a good enough chef, you're welcome to do so. Obviously, tours of the station. We'll have some displays up. We have a group of antique fire trucks coming from all over, just on display to look around. So that will be on Sunday. And that's it for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Laws and Claims, please.
Laws and Claims Committee did not meet.
Thank you. Police Committee. Chief Walsh, do you want to provide your?
Police Committee did not meet last month, and in the absence of the chair, Chief Walsh.
For the police department, a couple events coming up this week. Princeton is going to hold their homecoming parade on Wednesday the 6th. It starts at 6 o'clock. It will go from the entrance or exit on Sharon Road from the high school to Chester Road and back to the football stadium. Should be about a 30-minute inconvenience for traffic at that time. Also, Officer Hilling and myself will be leaving town, headed to New Jersey on Friday, the 8th. We will be participating in National Law Enforcement Week and participating in the Unity Tour ride, I'm sorry. We ride from New Jersey to Washington, D.C. It's about 300 and some miles. Takes over a 4-day period. And we'll be participating in the candlelight visual when we get there on Thursday and some other law enforcement activities during the week. Also, the Ohio Collaborative will be at the police department on the 21st of October at 10 a.m. This will be our on-site interview and assessment for the Ohio Collaborative. If anybody would like to stop by during that time and see what happens and see what goes on, you're more than welcome. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Public Buildings and Historic Preservation, please.
Public Buildings did not meet, and I'll email you, and David, I'll email you, and Tom, I'll defer to see how we're looking in November to set up a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Recreations and Playgrounds, please.
Playgrounds. The Playgrounds Committee did meet in September, and the focus of the meeting was to discuss the proposal from the Brock Foundation for replacing the tennis courts at Summit Park. There were a number of items to be discussed and have been scheduled for review sometime in October.
Thank you. Streets, Public Improvement, and Lights.
The Streets Committee did not meet, and our next meeting will be a budgetary meeting. If we have information about engineering work for storm system, we'll talk about that too. But for sure for budgets in October, and I'll schedule that offline. Thank you.
Thank you. Utilities, please.
The Utilities Committee did not meet in September, and like the Finance Committee and other issues, we will be meeting to discuss budgets for the enterprise for water and sewer system.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Treasurer, do you have a report for us?
Yes, so I did send summary to council for your review. And as I stated, you know, our returns are hanging in there, but they're really not stellar. We had about $450,000 of available cash earning like 0.03%. And today I kind of bit the bullet and decided to buy some CDs between 1 and 1.1% for 3 to 5 years. Just trying to, I'm betting that we'll get some returns because the future is kind of bleak right now. And with politics and everything the way they are today, I'd rather have something we can count on than stay at 0.03. So inching forward slowly.
Thank you. Turning to reviews of expenditures, we have received the following reports. 2021-08, general checking, certification for the payment of certain bills. 2021-08, enterprise checking, certification for the payment of certain bills. 2021-9, general checking, certification for the payment of certain bills. 2021-09, enterprise checking, certification for the payment of certain bills. And then we have received a council financial summary report for August through August 2021. And this indicates the revenues and expenditures for the general and other funds. Do I have a motion to acknowledge receipt of these reports?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried.
Mr. Mayor?
Leave- I-
Yeah, a question, not a question, just a comment. Motion, our vote to receive these reports does not preclude questions on the reports later on.
It is simply acknowledging the receipt of the reports. That's the motion.
I understand,
Okay.
and I just wanted to emphasize that, because I do have a couple of questions. I'm noticing some unusual repairs and also a different insurance carrier, Jefferson. And rather than take the time up in this council meeting, I think I would like to simply pose my questions to the administrator, and perhaps he can clarify what these expenditures and the repairs are.
I'm sure he can.
Thank you.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.